Hello and welcome back to the trash, and today we're going to go over episode 7 of Tough as Nails. We're already on episode 7, guys. We're like at the mid-season point. Actually, kind of farther than that, because we're at the final 6. There's the final 6 elimination that we saw last season. Then there's the team competition ending episode. And then there's the big finale of the individual competition. So we're looking at about 3 more episodes if they're following the old season format. That's what I would expect at this point. So let's talk about Freight Train. Freight Train, he was unable to come back yet. He broke the COVID bubble, so he had to be quarantined for a few days. So he's not going to be back yet in this episode, but he will be back later. And he's fine. He's doing fine. Love to hear it. I'm so glad Freight Train will be back for the team competition. I really didn't want it to be down to 4 people on this Dirty Hams team. We actually got some good team bonding content before the challenge, which is something I actually want to see more of, is Meryl getting road rage. So that's something. And I thought that the way they did this was a little interesting. I mean, I knew they were going to do this. It's making the teams even by sitting someone out, and they sat Savage Crew sat Selly out to make their team even with Dirty Hands. So 2 teams had to beautify a neighborhood by setting up plants, trees, laying sod on the yard, cleaning dirt off the walkway, and putting mulch around a tree. And we had some fun moments from everyone in the whole situation about doing yard work. Everyone hates to do yard work. Scott was complaining about it. Sally had never done yard work before. Swifty got his moments in the fact that he really didn't do the best job in leading the team, and he acknowledged that himself, too. This definitely wasn't his strong suit, and with only 4 people, team morale is low. They lost Tara and they lost Freight Train, and now they're at 4 people. They have a low team morale. They're at 4 people. They had to choose Liz as the crew boss instead of Angel, which would have probably made more sense. No hate to Liz, I just think Angel's a little better at the team leading competition thing. But Dirty Hands won the team competition, which means they're up 4-3. Who knows what's going to happen next episode? Maybe Savage Crew will tie it up. And we'll have to get a tiebreaker in the episode after that. So that'll be interesting to see. Can't wait to see which team ends up taking the win. And next up, we had the individual challenge. And they had to pick 100 pounds of oranges from orange trees. The 100 pounds of oranges needed to consist of 2 boxes of large oranges and 2 boxes of small oranges. Each box needed to weigh approximately 25 pounds each, so they had to weigh them on a scale to make sure the weight was correct. And then they had ladders to pick the oranges that were located in high trees. Arida and Sarah had a lot of trouble with their ladders. And one thing I do want to talk about is Arida. In this episode, she really got a lot more of an edit than she had in previous episodes. And she's really getting a lot more screen time than she used to. She's getting a lot more positive content, which does go a long way in predicting the winner. Because Arida is now getting all this content, all this positive content. And to me, I thought that meant she was going home, but it didn't. Because usually when shows like this give big edits to people who didn't have big edits before, that usually means, oh, they're out next. You know, we're just trying to throw him a bone. But no, she ended up actually beating Meryl in overtime, which we'll get to. But this was her star episode. This was the Arida episode, and I'm all here for it. Arida was one of my favorites from the start, and I'm glad she's getting more screen time. I'm glad I can finally justify putting her up higher in my rankings. And there won't be any rankings in this video. I'll do a separate video about that for just my mid-season rankings. Because it's mid-season, guys. And Zeus actually won this individual competition. And this is another breakout character of this episode, Zeus. Zeus and Arida are the 2 people that really showed themselves this episode. Obviously, Scott's been the front runner all this time. It's all been talk about Scott. It's all been Scott related. And everyone loves Scott. Scott's a beast. Scott's good at everything. I mean, he's Scott. How are you going to compete with Scott? Well, Zeus tried to compete with Scott, and Zeus actually got a lot of screen time towards the end of the individual competition, saying, hey, Scott's got some competition with Zeus. And he does. I think Zeus is one of the main things that Scott has to overcome if he wants to win. It's probably just going to come down to Zeus, Scott, and maybe Arida, too. So that'll be interesting to see. play out. You guys probably have a solid idea of what my list is going to be after this episode, especially after I talk so highly about Arida and I talk so highly about Zeus. And I'm still talking highly about Scott, too. But Zeus won the individual competition. Scott came in second place, Liz got third, Swifty got fourth, and Sarah took fifth, just narrowly avoiding overtime. And so overtime was Arida versus Meryl. And the overtime competition, they had to run with a small bucket, scoop up water from a large container, then they had to run back and pour water into a leaking water tank. The idea was to keep this leaking water tank filled with water as long as they could. The first one to run out of water from their leaking water tank lost. And they had like a black line at the bottom of the water tank just to give contestants an idea of when you should start worrying. And Arida was just able to keep up with it much better than Meryl was. Meryl wasn't able to keep up with it. She was just a little slower than Arida, and that made all the difference when Arida took the win in the overtime competition and Meryl had to punch out of the individual competition. So what does this mean for the future of the season? Obviously, we have our final six, and that is Scott, Arida, Zeus, Swifty, Sarah, and Liz. And one of them is, if they're going by Season 1 format, and I heavily stress this, if they're going by Season 1 format, one of them will be eliminated in the next episode, and then the other 5 are going to the finale. And then there will be a few competitions in the finale to eventually end up with a final 3. So you'll get to see my updated rankings maybe Saturday when I post that video. And yeah, this is just sort of a quick recap for episode 7 of Tough as Nails. Now that we only have half the contestants left, it only makes sense that I make the rankings a separate video. So I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.